Vacha Gayati Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mataji, should we go live or something? Or it's record?
Mataji, please give me 1 minute. 39.
I'll meanwhile tell prayers to Lord Ramchandra and Valmiki. Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam Valmiki Irmuni Samhasya Kavita Vanacharinaha Shrinvan Ramakathanadam Konayate Paramgatim Vedavedye Pare Pumse Jati Dasharatatmaje Veda Pracheta Sadasi Sakshat Ramayanatmanaha Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Bhuddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayotamukyam Shri Ramadotam Shirasanamami Anjaneyamadipatananam Kanchanadrikkamaniya Vigraham Parijatatarumulavasinam Bhavayami Pavamananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam Jaitrashruta Santrasa Dvantva Vidhamsanodaya Prabhavan Sitaya Devya Paramavyoma Bhaskara Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Shri Rama Nama Varanani. Once Mataji goes live, we'll get started with today.
I'm sorry, Mataji, I'm not able to go live, but I have started the recording, so we will be able to retrieve it. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so quick overview for what has happened so far. I'll go really fast. We started with the beginning of the Bala Kanda, the very first verse. Tapasvadhyaya niratam tapasvim vagvidamvaram naradam pariprapracha Valmiki Pungavam. So Valmiki Muni, he had a question to Narada Muni, who was very perfect in his Svadhyaya, in his practice, in his austerity. In all respects, he had a perfect guru. So Valmiki, the disciple, asked the guru Narada, tell me who on this earth at this point in time is the embodiment of 16 wonderful qualities, starting with Gunavan. And we also explained what Gunavan meant. So he listed 16 qualities and he asked, tell me who is there in this world right now who has these qualities. So Valmiki tells that all these 16 qualities belong to none other than Lord Sri Ramachandra. He has these 16 beautiful qualities like the 16 phases of the moon. So we all know the moon begins with Amavasya and ends with Purnima. And there are 16 different phases for the moon. So Lord Ramachandra, we call him Ramachandra. Lord Rama is also called as Ramachandra because he's like the moon having these different 16 qualities. So after he reveals who is the one who is the embodiment of these 16 qualities, Narada doesn't stop there. He also speaks the Sankshepa Ramayana. Sankshepa Ramayana means the Ramayana in a summary format. He gives the seed verses of the Ramayana on which Valmiki is able to build the 24,000 verses of the Ramayana. And also the Gayatri Ramayana is revealed to Valmiki. That is every thousandth verse in the composition that Valmiki would be composing would have the very first letter of every thousandth verse of the composition of Valmiki would have the Gayatri mantra in order, beginning with beginning with Tatsa Vitura Varenyam. So like that, and we saw the first verse, and we also saw the thousandth verse already in the previous class. And then Valmiki was ready to compose, so he went to the river Tabasa, and there he saw two croucha birds. And one bird was shot down, and he uttered a curse. And that curse, in fact, became a beautiful shloka, and that shloka is recognized as the very first verse of the Ramayana that Valmiki composed. So he put together this text with 24,000 verses, 500 chapters, 6 piece, and then end piece 2 that is written in the Ramayana itself. So he teaches this beautiful epic or the poetry to the two sons of Rama and Sita, who are Lavakusha. And these kids, they go and they sing this beautiful Ramakatha in various cities, towns, courtyards, gardens, and so on. And this beautiful narration was so captivating that Lord Ramachandra, when he hears it, he comes and sits amidst the audience because it is not only Ramayana, it is also Sitaya's Charitam Mahat and Paulatsyavanam, especially because it's Sitaya's Charitam Mahat. Our Lord Ramachandra is very, very attracted to the entire narration. Then we saw how the kids, they started singing and they described that the beautiful city of Ayodhya, they said the beautiful city of Ayodhya is nicely protected by different forts, and the people there, they have great qualities. There is not a single non-learned person in Ayodhya. Everything was perfect. The king was also very happy, but he had one desire. He didn't have a son. So the the prediction that he would have a son was already foretold in the past. And Sumantra, who's the minister, reveals this to him. And he performs the Putrakanishti Yajna, followed by the Ashwamedha Yajna, in which the Supreme Lord appears in the sky along with all the Devas. The Devas, they perform Sharanagati. Actually, Ramayana is also called a Sharanagati Shastra. That means a Shastra that reveals Sharanagati from beginning to end. So what is the essence or the purport of the Ramayana? It is Sharanagati. We will also see Sharanagati Ramayana once we finish the entire Ramayana. So the demigods, they surrender unto the Supreme Lord who appears in the sky, and they request the Supreme Lord to descend in the human species because they were fed up with the torture that was done by Ravana. And Ravana, in the boons that he had received from Brahma, did not mention about human beings and Vanaras. So they thought that it would be a great idea if the Supreme Lord came as a human being. So as a result of the sacrifice, the Yajna Purusha was a Prajapati Purusha actually. He carries this wonderful pot with the payasam or the kheer, and he gives it to Dasharath and asks him to hand it over to his qualified wives. The Vanaras also take birth. We saw the beautiful naming ceremony of Lord Rama and his brothers. And we saw the excellent horoscope of Lord Rama that was mentioned in the verses, and how Lord Ramachandra is Lokanayaka because he's got 5 planets in the Uchasthan. Then Lord Rama grew up very quickly. In Valmiki Ramayana, he just grew up in a few verses. And immediately Vishwamitra came and he asked for Rama. And Dasharath was very, very upset. Dasharath swoons and he says that he's not even 16 years old, because a person only when he's 16 years old, he's fit for battle. So my boy, Una Shodasha Vashohira, he says, my child is not even 16, he's just 12 years old. So how can you call him to the battlefield? But then Vishwamitra says, Aham Vedmi, I know who Lord Rama is. And finally, Vasishta also tells Vasishta also tells King Dasharath that you're making a mistake by not letting your son go with Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra will take very good care of your sons, let him go. So then Rama Lakshmana, they accompany Vishwamitra and they hear two beautiful mantras, Bala and Ati Bala, with which they are protected from fever, hunger, disfiguration, and so on. And then we saw the beautiful shloka of the waking up of the Supreme Lord, which is chanted even to this day, Kausalya Supraja Rama. And the children, they chant their Gayatri and they proceed with Vishwamitra, they enter Kamashramam. The story of Kamashramam or the burning down of Kamadeva, we already saw. Then we saw the story of Sarayu. At the confluence of the Ganga and the Sarayu, there was a loud rumbling sound of slashing of waters. And the boys asked, "Oh, Vishwamitra, what is this?" And he tells the story that Sarayu emanated from Manasa Sarovar in the Himalayas. Then they enter a very fearful forest, which was originally called as Maladakarush, because this land accepted the washed down sins of Indra. And Indra actually initially gave a beautiful boon to this land, that this land will be very prosperous. But then, though it was prosperous for many, many years, the demoness by the name Thartaka took over. And finally, as they entered the forest and they hear Thartaka appearing from the sky with a very loud noise. And Vishwamitra tells the two boys, eliminate this demoness. Initially, Ram is very, very hesitant to kill a woman, but then Vishwamitra tells, don't think of her as a woman. She's transgressing the dharma. And not only that, in the past, we have seen histories of many people who have killed women who are transgressors. So don't worry, you can still kill her. So after some time, after a little bit of good fight, finally, Ramachandra, he releases an arrow at the chest of Thartaka and he kills Thartaka. So then the demigods are extremely happy and they tell Vishwamitra, please bestow upon Lord Ramachandra all the divine weapons, beginning with Krishashva Prajapati, that is one of the weapons. And from there on, the different weapons are bestowed upon the two boys by Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra was already in possession of so many different weapons. Initially, he was a Raja Rishi and later he becomes a Brahma Rishi, right? And we will soon see the story of the transformation of this Raja Rishi to a Brahma Rishi. That is in the forthcoming classes, not even today, because I don't think we'll have time to touch upon that today. Anyway, so he gives several weapons, the different kinds of discs, the different kinds of maces, the different kinds of arrows and bows, which are all empowered by mantras. So the personification of each of these different weapons, which are endowed with mantras, they all came and with folded palms, they stood in front of Lord Ramachandra and they said, oh, we are ready to execute your order. But then Lord Rama says, don't worry. He pats them on the back and tells them, yes, I will surely call you when time comes. And they pay their obeisances and they depart. So he learns the secrets of so many different missiles and they move on to Siddhashrama, the ashrama of perfection. And when they go there, it was actually, they hear the story of Siddhashrama. It was the same place where Kashyapa and Aditi actually prayed for having a son, and they had Lord Vamanadev as a son. And Vamanadev eventually begged 3 pieces of land from Bali Maharaj and pushed down Bali Maharaj to the Sukalalok. Then they moved further on from Siddhashrama while Vishwamitra got into a vow because he had to perform a great sacrifice. And the sacrifice lasted 6 nights. At the end of the 6th night, they all expected that Maricha and Subahu, who were the sons of Thartaka, would soon appear. A question may be raised, why can't they protect the Yajnashala with mantras? Actually, it is possible. It is possible to protect our Yajnashala with mantras. Yes, the great sages, they did protect the Yajnashala with mantras. However, Thartaka, Subahu, Maricha, all these demons, they were very, very clever. They would not appear on the ground. They would not come running on the ground like today's wars. They would appear from the sky and they would start pouring blood and stool and pus and urine and whatnot. So they started their business, and immediately Lord Rama and Lakshmana, they shot arrows, and initially they were just having a little fun. But then finally Ramachandra used the Manavastra and he shot away Maricha, and Maricha fell 100 yojanas away into the ocean. Whereas he used the Agneya Astra and killed Subahu. We saw one of the reasons why Maricha was sent away so that the Ramayana can continue, right? He can come back as a deer. That is one reason. The other reason is he also wanted Tataka to have one son alive who can perform the Antim Samskara for Tataka. Just like how later Lord Ramachandra tells Vibhishan, you should perform the Antim Samskara for Ravana. So Ramachandra was always conscious about whatever he did. He had a reason why he did what. So though he killed Subahu, he sent away Maricha several hundred yojanas away so that he could remain to perform the samskaras for his deceased mother. Then finally, with Vayavyastra, which is another astra, he killed all the associates of Maricha and Subahu, and finally that place was cleared out of all these different demons. And they were very happy. The sages were very happy, and they said, hereafter we will really call this Siddhashrama, because only now we'll be able to attain perfection in our vows. Because these demons are eliminated, we will not have any disturbances, and we can peacefully perform all our penances nicely. Then the sages, they told Ramachandra that you should accompany us. When Rama asked, how may I serve you? Because Lord Ramachandra was staying with the sages and he was very keen on serving the sages as a young boy. So Ramachandra asks, how may I serve you? And the sages, they say, we really like your company and you seem to be very great at archery. So why don't you come and have a look at the bow, the great bow that Janaka holds in Mithila? He performs a Dhanurya yearly, and it will be nice if you can come with us and see that wonderful bow. And they say, no Deva or Gandharva or Asura has ever strung that bow. And they decided to walk along, and Rama was also very excited to accompany them because he got the permission of Vishwamitra, uh, who was his teacher, who gave him permission to go to different places. So they walked along and they reached the river Sona. And there they heard the story of Brahmadatta, how Kushanaba had 100 daughters from the Apsara by the name Gritachi. And these 100 daughters were very, very nice, disciplined girls. They always listened to what their father said. But however, the wind gods desired them and they disfigured them because the girls did not agree. So later, they were married to a great Brahmana who also became a king later, a Raja Rishi by the name Brahmadatta. And he started ruling Kampilya after that, after he accepted the 100 daughters. And by his miraculous touch, when he took them hand in hand in marriage, their bodies were revived and they were restored to great beauty. And that place came to be known as Kanyakubja, as we already discussed. Then he tells, actually, I am Gadi's son, and this Gadi was born from Kushanaba, who was a son of Kusha, the mind child of Brahma. So he says, actually, these people are my relatives. And he talks that he also belongs to the same area, and his sister, Kaushiki, Vishwamitra is known as Kaushika, and the sister is known as Kaushiki, and she runs as a River Kosi. So he says, this is my actual place. I mean, my birthplace, the place that I grew up in. And I always like to stay near this river because of the intense affection I have for my sister, who's also called as Satyavati, who later married a Rishi by the name Rishi Kamuni. We have to actually look at their stories as well, which is again going to come very soon. And then they all applauded Kaushika, all the sages. They said, you come from a great family, you have such great parentage, and you are also a wonderful sage doing a lot of penance. And they congratulate him. They stay there overnight near River Kosi. Then they transition slowly to the actual path of the river Ganges. And that is when Lord Ramachandra asks the story of River Ganga. He wanted to know the story of River Ganga, and Slowly, Vishwamitra, he built up the story. He didn't directly tell the descent of the river Ganges. He started building up the story with great enthusiasm. He said, once upon a time, Himavan, the king of the mountains of Himalayas, he had two daughters by the name Ganga and Uma. And he had married this daughter of Mount Meru by the name Meena, from whom he had these two daughters. So he said, you're asking the story of this Ganga, who's the older daughter, and she flows in the three worlds to benefit not only the human beings, but also the devas and all other living entities. But then he quickly wanted to tell the story of Uma, who was married to Lord Shiva. She chose Lord Shiva as her husband. While he was thinking about how Lord Shiva and Parvati were married, or Uma Devi were married, he also told the story of the birth of Kartikeya. So we saw the birth of Skanda or Kartikeya or Shanmukha, or what else names does he have? Sharavana, yesterday, and not yesterday, last week, and we stopped there. So now, after he spoke about the birth of Skanda or Kartikeya, then he continued on to elaborate on the story of Mother Ganga, how she actually inundated River Earth. The planet Earth. How River Ganga inundated planet. Though she was born as the daughter and she was very happily flowing in the upper planetary systems, at one point in time, she was brought down to the earthly planet. So the story of her coming down to the earthly planet is what is discussed in this section, which we will start. So this is the story of King Sagara's sons. First, we will see that story because one of the descendants of King Sagara was the one who actually brought River Ganges. Now, why did River Ganges come? To understand that, we will see the story of their dynasty and see why they wanted Mother Ganga to flow on earth. You all must be knowing this already because many of you are very learned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But of course, we will see the narration that is mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana. Many of these narrations can have little variations, not major variations, little variations, which is quite normal. But since you all know the basic story, you can relate to it and you can enjoy. So, once upon a time, in the Ikshvaku dynasty came a great king by the name Sagara. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, since he was born from the womb of his mother, along with the poison that was administered to her, he came to be known as Sagara. Sagara means one who was born with poison. So, but still, he survived it and he was born from his mother. He was a great king. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that he ruled very nicely. He performed so many sacrifices and he became the emperor of the world. And he actually disciplined the barbarians and the other Hunas, Kiratas, and all the other different tribes outside India, the uncivilized people, Mechas, all of them. He actually disciplined all of them. And in fact, he even punished many of them who did not agree to come under his control. So this Sagara from Ikshvaku dynasty had two wives. The name of one wife was Keshini and the other wife was Sumati. Now, according to Valmiki Ramayana, Keshini is the older one and Sumati is the younger one. But according to Srimad Bhagavatam, they switched around. Sumati is the older one and Keshini is the younger one. This Keshini, she was the son of the king of Vidarbha. So she is also Vaidarbhi, just like our Rukmini Devi. She also comes in the Vidarbha dynasty. So this Keshini, also called as Vaidarbhi, coming from the Vidarbha region, she was the older one and Sumati was the younger one. So what happened was King Sagara, he wanted to have nice children to continue his progeny and his dynasty. So he went to the Himalayan mountains and there, along with his two wives, he performed severe austerities in a mountain called as Bhrigu Prasvana. So this Bhrigu mountain, which is there in the Himalayas, is known to be filled with the affection of Bhrigu. Anyone who goes there and performs austerity, Bhrigu Muni becomes very happy. So one day Bhrigu Muni appeared in front of them and asked them what they wanted, and they requested that they should have sons. They wanted to enhance the dynasty. So Bhrigu Muni, he blesses them and he tells them, yes, you will have wonderful sons. One of your wife will give birth to one son who will continue the dynasty. Why? And this son the sons born, the son born out of the wife who will continue the dynasty will have a very great son. He'll be very great because he'll be able to continue the dynasty. While the children of the other wife will be very strong and valorous, valiant. Now you will have lots of sons from one wife and just one son from the other, but the son who is born from the wife, single son who's born from the wife, he'll be the one who's continuing the dynasty. So now King Sagara had a question. He asked then, which wife will give birth to whom? Which wife will give birth to 60,000 sons? Which wife will give birth to the son who will continue the dynasty? So at that time, Bhrigu says, I give the choice to the ladies, let them decide. So the older wife, she wanted to continue the dynasty. So she says, let me have a son who will enhance this dynasty and have sons further and enrich this entire dynasty. And that was Keshini or Vaidharbi. Okay, again, the rules are reversed in Ramayana, while in Bhagavatam, it is the other way around. And Sumati, who is the sister of Garuda, chose to have 60,000 sons. Now she is the sister of Garuda, right? So she can give birth to 60,000 very easily in the form of an egg. So she gave rise to an egg, a long egg, okay? Very, very long, like a cucumber. It is mentioned in Ramayana. So like a long cucumber or a long dudi, gold. So what is that? What gold do we call dudi?
Bottle guard.
Bottle gourd, yeah. So two things are written. Either you can imagine to be a bottle gourd or you can imagine it to be a long cucumber. And she gave birth to that egg. And upon breaking that egg, 60,000 sons issued from the cucumber-like egg. And then they were put in pots of ghee, honey, and so on, so that they could nicely culture these babies. And the babies were born. Similar kind of process is mentioned in Mahabharata also, where all the 100 sons of Dasharath were actually cultured nicely in these nice cocoons filled with the ghee and honey and so on. So like that, these 60,000 children came out. And something like modern, actually it was probably a more sophisticated method than modern day in vitro fertilization, but maybe something much more complicated. It appears to be far more complicated and more normal. But anyway, so these different children, they came out. And Asamanjas was the one child that Keshini gives birth to. Unfortunately, Asamanjas did not have a good track record of being a nice child. He was torturing younger children. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Asamanjas would throw children into water and he would laugh, torturing these children. But however, Srimad Bhagavatam gives out the secret that actually he was a Jati Smara, meaning he understood who he was from his past birth, and he just wanted to behave weird so that people would reject him and he could go and live in solitude. And later, the people got to know the greatness of Asamanjas when Asamanjas actually revived these children. Even to this day, if you are not behaving properly at home, if you're acting a little weird, people call you Asamanjas. At least in our family, they've heard this name many times. So this Asamanjas actually, not that he was just very dumb and crazy, but also he had these great powers that he could bring back dead children. Because of his past birth, he was a great sage. Okay. So that was Asamanjas. Asamanjas had one son by the name Amshuman. The same story is also mentioned in Bhagavatam. So Amshuman was the grandson of Sagara Maharaj. Okay. So by now, Asamanjas had already given birth to Amshuman, and Amshuman was present. Now, the 60,000 sons were also there with King Sagara. And at that time, Sagara Maharaj was performing a great sacrifice. And this time, the sacrifice that he was performing was an Ashwamedha Yajna. So you all know in an Ashwamedha Yajna, the horse is very, very important. And the horse was sent to different lands, and all the places that the horse marks, all that comes under the control of the emperor. So for the sacrifice to become complete, obviously the horse must be tied and sacrificed. But before the horse could be captured and sacrificed, as usual, which is very usual in every story, Indra, he stole the horse. Why did Indra steal the horse? Because he did not want Sagara Maharaj to be performing so many sacrifices. Because if one performs, you all know from the story of Prithu Maharaj. Similarly, Prithu also, he performed 99 sacrifices, and during the 100th sacrifice, Indra came and he stole the horse. Because only Indra is known as Shatakratu. That is, he's the one who has performed 100 sacrifices. Now, if someone else has performed 100 sacrifices, they take over Indra's position. So Indra is very, very worried, and he steals. Similarly, he steals Sagara Maharaj's horse. Now, how does he steal? In the case of Prithu Maharaj, he comes in the, anyone remembers in what robe or what fancy dress does he come? Indra, to steal the horse. In
He
Prithu's
comes
story.
in the guise of a sannyasi.
Sannyasi. Hey, Hari Bol. Welcome, Mataji. So he comes in the guise of a sannyasi, fixed sannyasi, and looking at him, many people, they started new sannyas trends, which is present even in this age of Kali, different kinds of sannyasis. But here, our Indra, he comes in the form of a demon and he steals the horse. Okay, so he comes in the form of a demon, and that's why this actually the sons of Sagara, they start digging the earth, because demons, they kind of go and they go to lower planetary systems, right? So he comes in the guise of a demon and he steals the horse. So on the day of the sacred function called as Uktyam, remember when we were saying the Ashwamedha Yajna that was performed by Dasharath Maharaj, we saw the 3 days, the names of the sacrifices on the 3 days. So one of the days is called as Uktyam. And at that time, Indra, he assumed the form of a demon and he stole the horse from the chief ritual. So now Sagara, when the horse was tied and kept, Sagara had given Amshuman, the grandson, in charge. Just like in the story of Prithu Maharaj, we have he gives his son Vijitashwa the charge of taking care of the horse, if you remember. Similarly, here in this story, Sagara Maharaj gave his grandson Amshuman to take charge of the horse's protection. So now Amshuman, he was very upset seeing that the horse was stolen, and he went and complained to his grandfather. So the Sagara Maharaj, he immediately summoned his 60,000 sons, because they are huge in number and they are very, very capable. They were very valorous. So he called all the 60,000 of them and he told them, you all have to somehow find the horse. So they mapped the earth to 1 square unit, yojana per person. 60,000 square yojanas was mapped by them. Okay, so each person took charge of 1 square yojana and they started digging the earth with their arms, and that were as strong as diamonds. So they had very strong arms. They were blessed with that, and they started digging down the earth. So like the 60,000 square yojanas of earth was dug over, and almost they went up till Rasatala. And the entire place that they were digging, they were coming across so many different reptiles and animals, because as you dig, you see a lot of reptiles. I think people in the US will have that experience when you're trying, especially in some states where there is a lot of forest coverage, woods. You start digging to plant a rose and you start seeing snakes. Snakes are there inside. So they started digging everywhere, and all the reptiles and all the other animals that they came across, they started killing everything. So they were really furious to somehow go and find the horse. So when all this was happening, Mother Earth was tortured, because Mother Earth was being dug up like anything. And she went and complained to Brahma, saying, what should I do? I'm being tortured like this. But then Brahma says, don't worry, your consort, Vishnu himself, will take care of this. Actually, there's an incarnation of the Lord by the name Kapila, and he stays in the northeastern direction. He will take care of this. So they continue to dig on the order of their father, and they go all the way till the easternmost part of the Bhumandala, almost, where they see this great elephant who's balancing the Bhumandala, who's called as Virupaksha, and they do not find the horse. And then they go all the way in the southern direction till they see this great elephant, Mahapadma, who's holding up the earth, and still they do not see. Then they go all the way to the western direction where the Sumanasa elephant is holding up. These four Diggajas that are balancing the world. They go and see these Diggajas. In the northern, they see the Bhadra elephant. And like this, they go in all different directions. And every time they meet the elephant blesses them. Don't worry, you will soon find the horse. So they get blessings of the elephants in the four directions that are holding up the earth. And then finally, they go to the north because they have covered the four directions. They start going to the northeast directions, crosswise, crisscross. So they go to the northeast direction, and that is where finally in a forest they see their sacrificial horse. And the horse was happily grazing in that land, but nearby they saw a sage who was deep in meditation. And when they saw the sage, they started screaming, saying, "Oh, he's the thief." So they said, "Thief, thief, thief, go catch him. He's the thief." And they all charged at him. And what happened? The fires from their body destroyed them. Srimad Bhagavatam says Kapila did not discharge fire from his eyes, like it's shown here. Rather, the fires in their body actually destroyed them, because when you make such a big aparad, the Agni Tattva was like coming out so heavily that it actually bursted open their entire body, and their body burst into flames. But Ramayana has an addition to this process. Ramayana says when Kapila was attacked like that, Kapila had his Brahmadanda. He just did this Humkara. Brahma Rishis, they just put down the dhanda and they say Hum, and then everything goes blast. Okay, there's a big blast. So that's what really happened. He did his Humkara, and the fire within their body came out and it burned them itself. So all the 60,000 of them, they got burnt by themselves because of the Humkara of Kapila Muni, and there was a huge pile of ashes, huge pile of ashes. And Kapila finished his business. Now Amshuman, 60,000 did not return. Sagara was still waiting for the horse to come. And he was thinking, what happened? I sent 60,000 of them. They have dug out the entire Earth planet, and still they have not found the horse. Until you finish the sacrifice, you cannot leave that place. You have to complete the sacrifice by killing the horse, meaning by sacrificing the horse. So till then, the sacrifice is not considered complete, and you just cannot vacate that area and run away. So Sagara was still waiting, and then he saw that the 60,000 did not return. So he understood that maybe they met some bad fate, and he sends his grandson Amshuman. Now his other son, Asamanjas, was not really fit for all this. So he had his own ways, so he did not call Asamanjas. But Asamanjas' son, Amshuman, was very, very smart and intelligent. So he sends Amshuman. Now, Amshuman, looking at where all his, these are stepfathers, maybe, yeah, stepfathers had dug the earth, he started walking, or he started moving his chariot in that direction, and he went on to the four cardinal directions. He saw the four elephants, and again the four elephants blessed him, saying that don't worry, you will go and see all your burned down grandfathers, I mean your burned down uncles, and you will also see the horse also. So then he goes in the northeast direction where he finds the horse grazing, his burnt uncles, and he sees also Kapila Muni. So seeing Kapila Muni, he pays his obeisances and he says, "Oh, you must be the great sage Kapila. But however, these were my uncles. Unfortunately, they got burned down. Now I have to offer oblations to my deceased uncles. So what should I do?" This is according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapila itself says that you have to bring the Ganges. But here, interestingly, there is a twist in the story. Garuda comes there because Garuda is the grand uncle. So he comes there and he says, my dear nephew, the only way to deliver all the 60,000 stepfathers or uncles of yours is when you give the waters of Ganga, when you give oblations of the waters of river Ganga, when Ganga Jal flows over them, they will all get delivered. For that, you have to bring Ganga from the heavenly planet. So, however, he heard his grand uncle. He said, okay, I will figure that out. I'll see how to bring Ganga. But now I need the horse, because unless I take back the horse, the sacrifice won't be completed. So he takes back the horse and he goes to his grandfather Sagara, who's not yet completed the sacrifice. So seeing the horse, the grandfather is very happy. He completes his sacrifice. Now one problem solved. Sacrifice is successfully completed. But then what about bringing river Ganga and delivering the ancestors? That was a big task. For 30,000 years, Sagara Maharaj, he ruled, and still for 30,000 years of sacrifices and penances, he was not able to bring Mother Ganga down. Then he had a son by the name Dilipa. These sections of the story is very similar to the narration in Bhagavatam. So this Amshuman, he had a son by the name Dilipa, and Dilip, he ruled for 32,000 years. He ruled more than his father, but still, in spite of performing so many austerities, he could not bring Mother Ganga. Dilipa was also unsuccessful. Actually, he gets an illness and he dies. But before he dies, he crowns his son Bhagirath, and he tells his son very carefully that you are the one who has to bring down Ganga, because if we do not deliver our ancestors, the future generations are in great trouble. And as predicted, because the previous ancestors were not delivered properly, Bhagiratha was sonless. This happens even to this day, people tell, right? Oh, if you don't have a child, your ancestors are not delivered properly. So then Bhagiratha had two problems. One is his ancestors had to be delivered. Secondly, he needed a son so that the dynasty could continue. So Bhagiratha, now he started performing severe austerities. He really wanted to achieve this because he himself had a problem where he could not have a child. So he really wanted to achieve success. So he concentrated his mind and he went to Gokarna and he performed severe tapas. Now, the Gokarna that is mentioned here is not the Gokarna that is in the border of Karnataka and Maharashtra, not that Gokarna. This is the Gokarna that is there in the Himalayas. In the Himalayas also, there is one particular hill by the name Gokarna. So he goes there and he surrounds himself with the 5 fires, Panchagni. What are the 5 fires? So in the 4 directions, they light up fire, and on top, sun is the fire, the hot ball on top. So like that, in midst of 5 fires in hot summer, he performed austerities with raised hands, invoking Mother Ganga. So after 1,000 years of austerities, finally, Ganga, she decided to descend down. And Brahma, who was actually the person in the higher planetary systems, he actually tells Bhagiratha that the elder daughter of Himavan, who's flowing as a river, will come to earth. Yes, she's ready to come. She's pleased. But then the earth cannot bear her force except one person, who is Lord Shiva. So the retelling here is a little different. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the retelling is that Ganga herself says, I need a suitable male to hold the force of my waters. But here in the Ramayana, Brahma comes and tells that you need to find out a way to hold the force of Mother Ganga. And he also suggests you can perform austerities towards Lord Shiva. So now, next set of austerities that Bhagiratha performed is he stood up on the tip of his big toe, praying for the mercy of Lord Shiva for 1 full year. So with the weight of his austerities, he started pressurizing the earth so much so that Lord Shiva was very pleased. Lord Shiva is called as Ashutosh, the one who's easily pleased. So he appears in front of Bhagirath, and he asks Bhagirath what he wants. And Bhagirath says, my dear Shiva, please hold the great force of Mother Ganga as she descends down. So, Lord Shiva holds the flow of Mother Ganges as she descends within the locks of his hair. And it is interestingly mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana that Ganga, she descended into the matted locks of Lord Shiva, and there were so many pathways. You when we go to these maze, M-A-Z-E, maze, not the corn that we eat, maze. Like you go to a nice theme park, there are mazes, there are different ways to get out, and then you have to find out the right way to go. So, like that, Mother Ganga, she was stuck in the coils and she was trying to find her way out. And she goes on like that for many years, trying to find her way out. And finally, she's able to emerge out of the coils of Lord Shiva. So she flows in three different directions out of the coils. And these three auspicious Ganga waters are flowing in eastward, westward, and in northward. So the names of the waters are, the one that flows eastward is known as Hladini, Pavani, and Nalini. Three streams went eastward. The names of the three streams are Hladini, Pavani, and Nalini. Shuchakeshu, Sita, and Sindhu are the three rivers that streamed in the westward direction. And of them, the seventh Ganga that flows towards the path of Bhagiratha's chariot is called as Bhagirathi, because obviously Bhagiratha has brought her down. She becomes the daughter of Bhagiratha. She's called as Bhagirathi. And sitting on a divine chariot, this Bhagiratha, he drives the chariot and Ganga follows the path of Bhagiratha. So, like this, Ganga came from the heavens to Shankara's head, and from there unto the earth. And on the earth, her water advanced in many, many different directions, in many streams, advancing behind Bhagiratha's chariot. So, like this, River Ganga is called as Tripadaka. That means she flows in three ways. So, she flowed from the heaven into Shiva's head and from there to the earth. She is also known as the one who flows in three directions: the eastward flow, westward flow, and the southward flow. Not northward, sorry, it should have been southward. The southward flow was led by Bhagiratha. The eastward flow, the main river is River Sindhu and Indus and Nalini, which is now called as Brahmaputra. So these are some, sorry, the westward is Sindhu and Indus, and the eastward is Nalini, which is now called as Brahmaputra. While Ganga proper courses a little south towards the ocean. So that Ganga proper was flowing down south and following the chariot of Bhagiratha. Okay. Now, so as Ganga was flowing, all the Devas, the Gandharvas, and the residents of the higher planetary system, they came down and they started sipping the water of River Ganga, because Ganga is so purifying. And whichever direction King Bhagiratha went, in that direction, Ganga also, she follows him very, very nicely. And the entire region was flooded. So it so happened that while she was flowing like that, following King Bhagirath, at one point her waters were so noisy, they were flowing with great force, that it was disturbing a rishi by the name Jannu Rishi, who was performing a sacrifice. So, hearing the waves of Mother Ganga and her force, and seeing how her waters were flooding the area of the sacrifice, this Jannu Maharishi got very irritated, and with his mystic powers, he started drinking up all her waters. Then everybody, they went and prayed to this Maharishi Jannu, telling him, please don't do this. We need Mother Ganga to flow everywhere. She will not disturb you, so please release her. And at that time, this Jannu Maharishi, he releases her from his ears. Therefore, she is also called as Janavi, the daughter of Jannu. Because Bhagiratha brought her down, she came to be known as Bhagirathi. Because Jannu Maharishi let her go from his ears, she is also called as Janavi. So like this Ganga, she proceeded again and she followed Bhagirath and she filled the entire world area where these sons of Sagara Maharaj had dug up. And she eventually also flows to the lower planetary systems eventually. She decides to flow down as well. So, like this, Ganga, she goes and all the way up to the huge mound of ashes of Sagara Maharaja's sons, and she washes down those ashes. And at that time, the 60,000 sons of Maharaj Sagara are all released from their sins and they reach the heavenly planets, and the ancestors are delivered. And because the ancestors were delivered, eventually, Bhagirath also had sons. So, like this, uh, Vishwamitra, he tells Rama and Lakshman the story of the descent of Mother Ganges. So, Ram and Lakshman are very, very happy listening to the story, and they thank Vishwamitra. And thinking about the story, Ram and Lakshman, they discuss the story and they fall asleep. And the entire night passed away like a moment because they had heard interesting stories. Like our children, they like to hear stories from their grandparents, and that night just passes by. So, like that for Ram and Lakshman, the night just flew by because they had heard a big story, very big, interesting story of Mother Ganges. They woke up the next day, they showered, they did their Gayatri, and they ferried down to the northern banks of the river the next day, and they reached a city by the name Vishala. So when they went to the city by the name Vishala, looking at the beauty of the city, again Ram had the same question. Please tell me the story of this place. So, yeah, Vishwamitra was very, very happy. Another round of storytelling. So he tells, once upon a time, there were two wives of Kashyapa. One wife was called as Diti and the other was called as Aditi. So now he begins to tell about the story of the churning of the milk ocean. Anyone wants to chant the verse? Let's see. Just unmute and she escaped Tamataji. Go ahead. Purvam. Yeah, you go ahead. You can
No,
directly.
go ahead, Mataji.
No,
Should
no,
I?
you can.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
पूर्वं कृतगे रामादिते पुत्र महाबलः आदित्येशे च महाभागा वीर्यवन्ता सुधार्मिका.
Mhm. So, Purve Krita Yuge, in the time of Krita Yuga, thank you so much, Mataji. Hey Rama, in the time of Krita Yuga, Diti and Aditi, the two wives of Kashyapa, they had children. However, Diti's putra, they were Mahabhala, very, very strong. Whereas Aditi's children, they were Mahabhaga, Viryavan, both. They were very, very fortunate. They were very dharmic and Sudharmika. They were very, very fortunate. They were very dharmic and they also were Viryavan. That is, they were also valorous. So one side, the demons were very strong. Demons means sons of Diti. The Daityas were very strong, Mahabala, while the sons of Aditi, they were very fortunate, they were very valorous, and they were very, very dharmic. Okay, so they are called as the Adityas. And what did they desire? They had one desire. They wanted to get lifelong nectar. They wanted to get nectar so that they could have a long life. Now, a solution to find nectar is to churn the Milky Ocean. So they went to the shores of the Milky Ocean and they decided to churn this place. And they brought Vasuki as the rope and Mount Mandara as the churning rod. So this is what they had chosen. And they started churning the Milk Ocean. Now, if you hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, the details are so much more. In Srimad Bhagavatam 8th canto, there are so many chapters about the churning of the milk ocean. But here is a very short synopsis of what is mentioned in Bhagavatam. So they started churning this, and the churning went on for thousands of years. And eventually, poison started emanating because of the excessive churning. And once the poison was emanated because of the churning, they were looking at a suitable person to devour all the poison. And our Lord Vishnu, he suggested that it is only Lord Shiva who's capable of drinking the poison. And Lord Shiva, he appears there, he drinks up the poison, and he leaves that place. Okay. Same story is there in Bhagavatam also. He leaves the place, he vacates that place, he doesn't stand there. Then the mountain started caving in. This Mandara mountain, it started going inside. So they wanted a suitable support. And Lord Vishnu himself became Kurma and he held up this mountain. And then he himself again becomes Ajita and he sits on the mountain for support. And he's on both sides helping the demons and the demigods to churn the ocean. Then finally, on top of the mountain also he's supporting, and after thousands of years of churning, a male personality by the name Dhanvantari appears. He is also Vishnu. So Dhanvantari appears and he becomes the father of Ayurveda. And what does he have? In his hand, he had a beautiful vessel that had the Amrita. Not only did Dhanvantari come, who all came before this Dhanvantari is also mentioned. The Apsaras, they also emanated from the Milky Ocean. I don't think this is there in Bhagavatam. But here in Ramayana, it is mentioned that the Apsaras also come from the churning of the Milk Ocean. And that's why they're called as Apsu Rasa. That means Apsu is waters, Rasa is the ras of that waters, the taste of those waters. That is the Apsara. That's why they get the name Apsara, and they also emanated during the churning. Okay, so like this, so many things came out, and the nectar also came because of this churning. Now, why did Vishwamitra tell the story of the churning of the milk ocean? Because he wanted to eventually tell the story of Diti again performing austerities to have children who would become the conqueror of Indra. So, what happened at this point in time after the churning of the milk ocean was that because of the nectar that had come out, everybody was fighting to get possession of that nectar. And to resolve that conflict, Vishnu takes the form of Mohini. And taking the form of Mohini, he unequally divides the nectar, saying that he will equally divide the nectar. He cheats the demons and he gives all the nectar to the demigods. So, looking at this act of Vishnu, a great fight ensued between the demons and the demigods, and many of the demons were killed eventually. Okay. Similar stories are mentioned in Bhagavatam with some additions. We will, when we do Bhagavatam, we'll see those stories. But there are many more layers to the story in Bhagavatam. So, so finally, lot of demons were killed and they were attacked basically at this point in time. So Diti was very, very upset. Diti is the mother of the demons. She was very, very upset and anguished that many of her sons were killed, and she wanted to take revenge. So to take revenge, she decided that she would perform a lot of austerities and have a great son who would become the exterminator of Indra, who would kill Indra. So she asked her husband Kashyapa that she wanted to follow a vow, and Kashyapa agreed. She says, I want a child who can become Trilokya Hantaram. That means one who can defeat the three worlds, according to Ramayana. Slightly different narration in Bhagavatam. But here, she asks, I want a son who can be Trilokya Hantaram and who can also be the conqueror of heavens of Indra. And Kashyapa, initially he agrees, and Diti, she reaches a sacred place called as Kushapalva, which is the current city Vishala on which we are standing, says Vishwamitra to Rama. Why did Vishwamitra tell all the story of the churning of the milk ocean, killing of the demons, Diti wanting to take revenge and all? Because he wanted to tell the story of Vishala. What is the significance of the city Vishala? The significance of the city Vishala is that this is the sacred place where Diti performed this great sacrifice. It's called as Pumsavana Vrata, if I'm not wrong. It is called as Pumsavana Vrata. And she performed, according to Bhagavatam, she performs this great austerity here. So this city came to be known as Vishala since then, because also there was a king by the name Vishala who ruled this place, and it is considered to be a very, very pious land. So anyway, she continued to perform the vrata. And according to that vrata, there are many, many rules. All these rules are there in Bhagavatam. If you want to read, you can read the rules. But however, some of the rules are that she should never sleep in the afternoon time, especially when you have taken a vrata, you don't sleep in the afternoon time. And you cannot keep your head in certain directions when you lie down. Like, for example, one must keep one's head to the south or to the east only. One may not keep their head to the west and the north. So that is one of the rules while sleeping. And mainly, the top part of the body should always remain clean. The top part of the body should not touch the feet. So there are many rules like that which were laid down, which is not discussed in detail in Ramayana, but discussed in very great detail in Bhagavatam. So Diti, she took up the vow and she was very seriously following. She performed this for many thousands of years. How many thousands? 10, for many, many thousands of, actually for a very long time. And when only 10 years of that 1,000 was left, so for thousands of years, she had to perform that sacrifice. And when the last 10 years was left, at that time, there was a small mischief that was played by Indra. Actually, what Indra started doing is he started behaving like a well-wisher for Diti. So from time to time, he would come in the guise of helping Diti to perform his sacrifice. He would go and bring firewood, water, kusha grass, fruits, tubers, and so on for her, for the tapasya that she was doing, or for the sacrifice that she had taken up. To help her execute all the austerities, from time to time, Indra would come and help. And during the last 10 years, it so happened that on one day, she slept during the noontime with her head on the leg side. This is how Ramayana says. But the point in later verses that is mentioned is that her hair, the long hair that she had, happened to touch her feet when she was lying down. So she was coiling up and she was lying down, and her long hair was touching her feet. Or you can consider it to be she was putting her head in the wrong direction, which could be either north or west, which you should not. So she did that. And because there was a discrepancy in the vow that she had taken up, Indra thought this is the right time. When the vow is not carried out properly, at that time, it is a very good opportunity for one to come and destroy the vow that the person is doing. So Indra enters her womb. He enters her womb and he begins to cut down the fetus that is already formed in her, because she desired to have a son. So during the vrata, she had already conceived. Okay, during the vrata also there are rules how to conceive and things like that. So she had conceived and a fetus was growing in her womb. So this Indra, he enters the womb and he goes and he starts cutting down the baby, the fetus, actually, the fetus in the womb of Diti. He cuts the fetus into 7 pieces. And at that time, the fetus begins to cry. And Indra says, Ma Rudha, Ma Rudha, Ma, don't, Rudha, don't cry. So he keeps saying, Ma Rudha, don't cry, don't cry. Hearing the cries of the child in the womb, Diti said, oh, you cannot kill my fetus. My fetus is growing properly. I've been doing this vrata very, very diligently. How can my fetus die? You will not be able to kill the fetus. But then Indra tells Mother Diti, you happened to break certain rules. Your hair was touching the feet when you were lying down. And that is the reason why I got this power to enter your womb and cut your fetus into 7 segments. And Diti, she is startled and she says, if I have broken this vow, I still beg you that please ensure that these 7 segments will still be born all right, and they will become your followers. They will become the 7 wind gods. Now, the climax of the story is very nicely described in Srimad Bhagavatam. that through the process of this vrata, which was directed towards Vishnu, a lot of purification happened to both Diti and Indra, and both of them became so purified that they were amicable towards each other. And that's why there was a change of heart. And there is a lot of other additions in the Bhagavatam. It is very beautifully described. Here again, it is a very short story. But Indra, she says, Diti, she says that please accept the 7 portions as the wind gods and let them be your followers. So, like this, there are 7 airs. The Avaha air is known to be the air that fills in the clouds. The Pravaha air is the air that circulates in the solar orbit. Samvaha in the lunar orbit, Udvaha in the galaxies, and Vivaha in the planetary spheres, Parivraha in the 7 sages sphere, Varavaha in the North Polar regions. These are also called by the names Gagana, Sparshana, Vayu, Anila, Prana, Praneshwara, and Jiva. Each of these Marut gods have a batch of 7 Maruts, so there are 49 Maruts. In the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned these 7 were further chopped into 7 each. That is, each of these 7 had 7 divisions. So a total of 49 Maruts came into existence. Here, it is the same thing is mentioned in a different way, that there were 7 and each of these 7 had a set of 7 followers who are also the Maruts. Okay, so a total of 49 Maruts came into existence, and these are nothing but the winds that fill in different directions in the different planetary systems. So this is the story of Vishala. And further, Indra also says that one from the 7 may permeate Brahma Satyaloka, another will permeate the heaven of Indra, and the third one will become the great, celebrated, reputed wind god, and he will circulate in the ether that is there above earth. So like this, and 4 others that is remaining from these 3, they would permeate in the 4 directions. So like this, Diti also makes a statement, and she says, they will be your followers and may safety be with you. She blesses Indra that nothing will happen to him. Initially, she wanted a son who would conquer Indra, but now she befriends Indra and she says that even my sons will become your followers and they will serve you. Okay. And the reason why these 49, 7 into 7 became Maruts is because Indra called it Maruda. So they became Marut. Okay. Marut. That is the name that they get. And finally, the stepmother and the stepson, they become very good friends. They fulfill each other's promises. The stepson says, I will take care of my brothers, don't worry. And the stepmother says, I will not curse you, don't worry. And they become good friends and they depart. So the place where this vow was taken up by Diti is this Vishala. And the reason it's called Vishala, as I mentioned earlier, is because later a king by the name Vishala ruled this place, so it came to be known as Vishala. And then Vishwamitra tells, after Vishala, there were many kings who ruled this place, and the current king who's ruling this place is called as Sumati. He is the current king. And eventually, by the end of his storytelling, Sumati himself, he comes to that place and he sees Vishwamitra. He pays his obeisances to Vishwamitra. He honors Vishwamitra and gives him a grand welcome because Vishwamitra has come to his city. And when Sumati sees Rama and Lakshmana, he's very, very happy to see them. And he also inquires about them, looking at their beauty and their resplendence. He asks, who are these 2 boys? And Vishwamitra tells how they protected for sacrifice. So Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Vishwamitra, they stay for 1 night in Vishala and they decide to move on to Mithila. So while they enter this beautiful town of Mithila, all the sages, remember from Siddhashrama, all the sages are coming, right? So all the sages are coming up along with Rama Lakshman and Vishwamitra. So as they enter the beautiful city of Mithila, the sages are so happy that this city is so beautiful. They say, splendid, it looks so nice. The reason why it looks so nice, the commentators say, is because it was like a temple town. Mithila was full of temples, and there's a small comparison. Just like how Ayodhya was full of forts, because Ayodhya was a well protected city, Mithila was a very, very divine city. So the sages were very, very happy, thinking, oh, this city is so beautiful. And in the fringes of the city of Mithila, in the border of the city of Mithila, there appeared to be a very beautiful ashram, very, very exotic, but it looked old at the same time and it looked uninhabited. That means there was nobody living there. So, looking at the uniqueness of that ashram, again, Lord Ramachandra had his favorite question: what is this place? Oh, Vishwamitra, what is this place? Tell me about this ashrama. And here comes the story of Ahalya. The famous story of Ahalya, everybody knows. But let's see how Valmiki presents the Ahalya story. We have heard so many versions of the Ahalya story. We'll also see Valmiki's version and we'll see the comparative versions of the same story. Vishwamitra was so happy that Ramachandra had asked the story of Ahalya. He was so happy. He said, oh, what a pleasure, I will tell you the story. The reason is because Vishwamitra knew very soon Ahalya would be released from her curse, because Ahalya had been waiting for many, many, many years for the arrival of Lord Rama. So Vishwamitra begins to tell the story with all excitement because he is going to witness the deliverance of Ahalya. So Vishwamitra was very excited. So he said, many years ago, Gautama, the great Rishi, was performing a lot of austerities in this place. And he had married the world's most beautiful woman, Ahalya, the world's most beautiful created woman by Brahma. Because when Brahma created her, she was flawless. That's why she's called as Ahalya. No flaw. You cannot find a single wrong feature in her. Everything, she was perfectly made. Woman means it was Ahalya. But this Ahalya became the wife of a great rishi who was performing lots of austerities, who had become frail and old, and with all the austerities that he was doing, and that was Gautama Rishi. And hearing about the beauty of Ahalya, many people desired her, including Lord Indra. Lord Indra had a very intense desire to be with Ahalya, and Ahalya knew this. Ahalya knew that Indra has been waiting to be with her. So he knew that very, very well. She knew that very, very well. So one day, when Gautama Rishi had gone to the waters to take a bath, morning, right? Morning, you go and take a bath in the waters. So it was morning time. Gautama had gone to take his ritualistic bath. At that time, Indra, the thousand-eyed god, what does he do? He comes in the guise of this Gautama. He comes like another Gautama. You see this picture? There are two sages. One is Indra himself, and the other is the real Gautama. So Indra comes in the guise of Gautama and he goes in front of Ahalya and he tells Ahalya, why don't we physically unite at this time? At that time, Ahalya very well knew it is not her husband, very clearly mentioned in Valmiki's version. Valmiki says Ahalya knew it and she voluntarily decided to be with Indra. Other retellings may have a different version of Ahalya, but here Ahalya knew very well. How did she know it was Indra? Three reasons are given by Valmiki. First and foremost thing, Gautama will never approach her at the wrong time, especially in the morning time when it is time to do your morning rituals. He will not approach her. He was a great rishi with great qualities and she knew her husband very well. Second thing, she had heard so much from so many people that Indra was waiting to unite with her someday. So she knew very well this is Indra. But then it could be somebody else as well, right? So many people can take the guise of Gautama. But why did she conclude it was Indra? Because she knew no one else had the um, bravery or guts to come in the guise of Gautama, because she knew how powerful her husband was and how he could curse anybody. So fearing the curse of Gautama, she knew nobody else would dare to come to that place. But she knew Indra would go to any extent to get her. So the minute she saw this fake Gautama come in front of her, she could understand this is not her husband. She very clearly knew it was Indra. And she also says that, I know you're Indra. And she says, I know you've been wanting to be with me and I accept. Because she also desired to be with him. She thought, okay, the god of gods, I mean, Indra Dev, right? He's like not really god of gods, but still he's the king of gods. So he is Mahendra. He himself wants to be with me. She was thinking like that. How beautiful should I be? So she was thinking like that, and she desired to please Indra voluntarily. So she had a nice time with Indra, and then she tells Indra, please leave now. Okay, it's time for you to go. And Indra very hastily rushes out of the ashram when Gautama catches him, like you see in this picture. And when Gautama saw that it was Indra, he curses Indra and he also curses Ahalya. And the curse that he gives Indra, according to Valmiki's Ramayana, is not that he will have 1,000 female organs, which is mentioned in Padma Purana and other scriptures. The curse is that, we say Indra has 1,000 eyes, right? So initially the curse, according to Padma Purana and other scriptures, is that it was 1,000 female organs that later Indra begs Gautama to reduce the curse and it becomes 1,000 eyes. But however, according to Valmiki's version, Gautama curses Indra that his testis would fall down. Okay, the male organ, the testis, that would fall off. So he gets that curse and he goes away. Now he also curses his wife Ahalya because he knew very well she voluntarily accepted. Now Ahalya, what does he curse her? That is kind of interesting. He tells that you will remain here for many thousands of years without food, consuming air. Okay, you wanted to be with a person who drinks only nectar, who lives on amrit. You wanted to be with such kind of a person, but for many thousands of years, you will not even get anything to eat. You will be living, consuming air. What will be your form? You were very happy, very proud of your beautiful form. And because of your beautiful form, you dared to be with another man. So you will be formless, according to Valmiki Ramayana. Meaning like she will not even be existing, she'll just be there. You can't even make out where she is. She won't be a stone, according to Valmiki Ramayana, but according to Padma Purana and other Ramayans, retellings of Ramayans, many places it is mentioned stone, but in Valmiki has not mentioned stone. Adrishyata, that means you will not be seen. That is your form. You'll almost be formless. And third thing that he tells us, you will be covered with dust. That is, you will have dust as your sleeping place. You desired a nice cushiony place for lying down with Indra, but now you will have only dust as your Shainasthan, as your sleeping place. So three things he says, and she is cursed to be invisible in one sense, or just be amidst dust, thriving on breathing, on taking in air. So that is the curse that is given. And Indra, meanwhile, what happens is he goes and he complains to all the demigods. He goes and tells all the demigods, see, we all decided on doing this act. He actually had a conference with the demigods before he came and disturbed this Gautama and had union with Ahalya. The reason why Indra actually came at this point in time to be with Ahalya was because he understood that Gautama's merits were increasing very greatly. That is his, right? Whenever sages are performing great austerities, Indra gets very scared and he sends apsaras to distract them. Like Indra sent Menaka when Vishwamitra was performing great austerities. So the weapons that the demigods use is mostly the apsaras to invoke lust, or if they think they cannot invoke lust, what they do is they invoke anger. Lust and anger are the gates to hell, right? So anger and lust both are come out of the mode of passion. And when a sage gets angry and he curses, what happens is he loses lot of his merits. So again, he has to perform lots of austerities to gain back the merit that he has lost by cursing. So Indra thought there is no point sending any Menaka or Rambha or anybody like that because he already has Ahalya. Ahalya is the most beautiful woman. Forget Menaka, Rambha and all. So he was thinking, I also want to be with Ahalya and I also want to bring down his piety, how much ever pious credits he has gained by doing austerities. So let me go at this time. In that way, let him curse. So this was the grand plan of Indra. So he goes and of course he receives the curse, but then now he's very upset after the curse and he goes and tells the demigods, now I have been cursed, but it was a joint venture. Now you have to help me. So he goes and asks all the demigods, and then the demigods, what they do is they pray to the ancestors, the Pitris. They pray to the Pitris saying that you take rams and sacrifice, goats and rams in sacrifice. The Pitri is usually when the sacrifice is done in those days. In this time and age, Pitrakarya is not done with animal sacrifice. In that time and age, in Treta Yuga, they would offer goats or rams in sacrifice. So let the testes of rams come to Indra. That way, rams without testes would be offered to you. So this is a bargain that they make with the ancestors, and the ancestors agree. And Indra was awarded the testes or the male organ from a ram thereafter. That way he got the organ. Okay. So this happened in Indra's case. Now, this is the story. He requests demigod help, and Agni is the leader, and they're trying to figure out a way. And then Indra, he accepts rams without testes, and that was awarded. I mean, the Pitris, they accept rams without testes, and that was awarded to Indra. Now comes the most important thing. Ahalya is stuck there, right? Indra, happily, he ran away and he got what he wanted. But what about Ahalya? So now comes the correct solution, because Lord Ramachandra is right here. At this point in time, Gautama, he left that place. He was disgusted after the curse. He was extremely disgusted with everybody. He was so upset that his wife behaved like this. And he also lost all his merit. So he went to the Himalayas for further penance. And he decided that I will not come here till you are delivered. And he tells also that there is a vimochan for this curse. After thousands of years, the son of Dasharatha by the name Rama will come here. And after he enters this ashram, in his presence, you will get delivered. He tells that and he goes. Okay. So now Gautama has gone off. The solution is also given. It has been 1,000 years. Vishwamitra knows everything. And Vishwamitra has also brought Rama and Lakshmana here. So now Vishwamitra, he tells Rama, enter the ashram. Now again, one more thing about Valmiki Ramayana. Rama's leg doesn't touch Ahalya, because even with his leg, he won't touch a woman. Okay, Lord Ramachandra, and especially another person's wife. So according to the Valmiki Ramayana, it is, he just enters the ashram. In his sannidhi, that is in his presence, just by the presence of Ram in the ashram, immediately Ahalya revives her original form, not the original form before she had union with Indra, the original form before she was even married to Gautama Rishi. That form, the original form that was created by Brahma, she acquires that body, okay, because of this mere presence of Ram, coming close to Ram, being in that presence of Ram in his sannidhi, she has acquired this. That is how the verse goes. Now, again, commentators, they do understand that the Puranas mention that Lord Ramachandra's, there was a contact with the feet. But in the Puranas also, it is not directly feet, it is the dust of the feet. And then our acharyas add to it. They say it is not even the feet, it is the dust of the padukas. So because of the dust of the feet or dust of the padukas that falls on Ahalya, Ahalya comes back to her original form. But according to Valmiki, just in her presence, that's all. Just in his presence, he didn't need to give dust. He didn't need to touch her, go and physically touch, stamp, nothing. She just comes back to her original form. And Gautama Rishi, who knew that 1,000 years have passed and Lord Ramachandra himself has come, he also times his arrival exactly at that time. And he comes and sees his wife is restored to her original form. And very nicely, very graciously, he accepts his wife. Now, this is the greatness of sages like Gautama. So he didn't hold that, continue to hold that hate or something. He just came back and accepted her as the wife. So, like that, there are many versions of the retelling of the Ramayana that has slightly different versions. Now, after Ahalya was delivered, they walked by and they had already, I told you, this was in the outskirts of Mithila. So, as they were entering Mithila, at that time, the great minister and sage Shatananda, he comes and he welcomes Rama, Lakshmana, and Vishwamitra. So, this is the welcoming with King Janaka. They just come and they see the three of them have arrived. And Shatananda was also the son of Gautama and Ahalya. Shatananda, immediately the news spread like wildfire. Shatananda came running outside and he heard that his mother is now delivered. And he was so happy to see Rama Lakshmana. And he sees Vishwamitra and he profusely thanks Rama and Lakshmana, telling them that you both have actually delivered my mother after thousands of years. We had been waiting for this day. And then he begins, Shatananda, he tells, I'm so happy that you boys have come. And not only that, I'm also very happy for the two of you. Not just that my mother has been delivered. I'm happy for you also because you are under the tutelage of Vishwamitra. You are under the care of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra is such a great personality. Now I will tell you the story of Vishwamitra. So now all this while, Vishwamitra was telling stories to Rama and Lakshman. But now Shatananda, who is the son of Ahalya and Gautama and the minister of King Janaka and a great rishi, he begins to narrate the story of Vishwamitra's lineage and his entire life. Okay. So we'll say one sentence and we'll stop. He says, this great Vishwamitra comes in the dynasty of Kusha. Who was Kusha? He repeats the same thing that we have already heard. Kusha was the brainchild of Brahma. His son was Kushanaba. Kushanaba performed a Putrakameshti Yajna from which he had Gadi. Gadi had Vishwamitra and Satyavati. Satyavati flows as a river, and this Vishwamitra, he was a great king. He was a very, very great king who ruled for many thousands of years. But then eventually on a fateful day, he went to the forest along with several Akshauhinis of army, and there he happened to stumble upon the ashram of Vasishta. So we will stop there, and in our next session, we will see the entire story of Vishwamitra, his life story, the experiences that he had, how he transformed from a king to a Raja Rishi, to a Brahma Rishi, and all the lessons that we can learn from Vishwamitra's life. It's a very, very big story. So we will see that in multiple sections in the next week. And hopefully we'll finish the story of Vishwamitra next session. So I'll stop here exactly on time. Anyone has any questions, comments, realizations, additions, corrections, please go ahead.
Very, very beautiful class, my Preethi. Excellent session. Story time telling. It was very nice. But why, how can we understand that there is a difference between some stories in the version of Bhagavatam and Ramayana?
In the way it is being told, there can be little differences, not major difference. The overall storyline is the same. But even when we are telling, right, sometimes we mix up the characters of the story. It can happen. It can happen. That is one thing. And secondly, Govindaraja in the commentary also says that for certain sections, he says Kalpabeda. He himself says that it is Kalpabeda because when the Puranas are saying something and Itihasas are saying something different, then we should not consider one to be right and one to be wrong. You can consider it to be Kalpabed. Why he comments on that is during Ahalya's story, especially the stone and the dust and the presence, right? He analyzes each of these situations and he quotes from which section what was taken, and he says everything is correct, but we attribute it to Kalpa. Maybe in a different Kalpa, she was a stone. In this Kalpa, she was just existing like that.
Mm. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Praladananda Prabhu, you have some question.
Dhanvat Mataji. This is a very excellent discourse on. It reminds me of a slok from fourth canto. Maitra Muni is telling story to Vidurji about Pruthu Maharaj, and this slok number is very nice. It's the fourth canto, 20th chapter, 25th slok. It says, "Sa uttam sloka mahanmukhachuta भवत्पदाम्बोज सुधा कणानिल स्मृतिर्पुनर्विस्मृति तत्त्ववर्त्मनाम् योगिनां नो वितरति alambare." The translation is exactly you have transpired today. It says, "My dear Lord, you are glorified by selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotees like Mother Preethi Vilasini Mata." Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you for that valuable verse, Prabhu. Beautiful, beautiful connection. Thank you so much. Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. What a beautiful picture. Display picture. Krishna and Sudama, or maybe somebody else. Yeah.
Maybe Balram, I thought.
Okay.
I'm not sure, Mataji. It's a beautiful class, Mataji. It took us to Ramayana scenes. Mataji, I have two questions. You said Ganga, Bhagirath got from through Vishnu, Shiva's head and things. Another version is Vaman Dev, when he raises his leg, it came from Vishnu's feet, and
yeah.
That is
yes,
one.
Again, this also Chakravarti Pad in the Bhagavatam, he comments. If someone has Subodhini handy in 9th canto, you can open up that section. The comments are there. That in one, again, Kalpa Veda is one answer, that in different Kalpas, the descent of the Ganges is described differently. But all are correct, because you can actually even say that when the Supreme Lord, his foot went and pierced through the coverings of the earth, Brahma's Kamandalu also washed, and then the Virija river, it percolates, the dust of the lotus feet mixes, the water of the Kamandalu mixes, flows as the Ganges in the upper planetary system, and eventually brought to the middle planetary system, which is through the process of Bhagirath, bringing down the Ganges from the high planet. So everything is added.
Yes, Mataji. And next question is Bhagirath. He said he raised his hand and hands and did penance, but we have heard from Mahabalipuram story. He did penance with one leg, tapasya.
Yeah, you can. So basically, he was pressing down his toe and he was raising his hand and doing tapasya. That's how it's mentioned here. But maybe some other Purana, we don't know.
Sure, Mataji. Then the Sadananda, you said, who's minister, Mataji? Yes, son of Aditya.
Janaka Maharaj. Janaka Maharaj.
Wow, okay. That's so nice to know, Mataji. Your stories.
We'll see more stories with Shatananda very soon. He will tell us all the story of Vishwamitra, and he'll tell about himself also. So
thank you, Mataji. Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Very amazing class, Mataji.
Thank you. How old are you?
8 years old.
You're looking so sweet, speaking from the tree. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribo.
Your name is what's your name? Kudya?
Yes, Mataji.
Very nice. Very nice. Nice to see you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hmm.
If there are no other questions or comments or realizations,
Yes, Mataji, we can end here. There are no chat questions, just the glorification.
thank you everyone for your association.
Devi, thank you, dear devotees. So we'll stop here. See you all next Monday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
And
नमः।
Koti Vaishnavi ki
जय
jai.
श्रील
Srila
प्रभुपाद
Prabhupada
की
ki
जय
jai.
श्री की जय।
Hare Krishna.
Vilasini Mataji ki jai.
कृष्ण माता जी
Jai
कृष्ण
Shri
everyone
Krishna.
धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, dear devotees, thank you all so much. I'm ending the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare